Israel from doing what it is doing, and that will be the organization of thousands, if not millions of us globally to stop what Israel is doing, and that is the commitment that we all have to make here today to organize a fight once and for all to end the occupation of Palestine. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our MCs. Are they up here? Sarah and Jasmine. Jasmine and Dania. I'm going to turn the mic over to them.
Hey y'all, my name is Jasmine. I'm from San Antonio. I would like to thank each and every one of you guys for coming. This is literally nothing without you guys, so give yourself a pat on the back or something. Also to you, when Kareem came up here, you guys were a little bit weak. So let me hear from each city. The best city of all, San Antonio. What's up? Let's hear a little bit from Houston. You guys, they brought 7 buses here. We need to show up. Let's hear a little bit from Dallas. And then, last but not least, our host city, Austin. Alright guys, I'm not going to be up here for too long, but let's renew our intentions. We are here for Gaza, and we are here for the oppressed people. And this, honestly, thank you guys so much, but let's also thank our organizers. We'd like to thank Josie from Austin, Haitham from Austin, Bernice and Snehal and Ramon from Austin, Sana from Dallas, Houston we have Masood, Jasmine, Sora and Ahmed from San Antonio, Amal from Dallas, Ahmed from Houston, and Sora from San Antonio as well. Like I said guys, let's renew our intentions and let's give a little bit of time for our next MC, Daniel. From Austin.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Daniel.
Daniel, we can't hear you.
I'm going to start us off with a number. If you are 6 years old in Gaza, this is the 3rd massacre you're witnessing. At the end of 2008, beginning of 2009, Israel had Operation Cast Lead. 2012, Israel had Operation Pillar of Defense. In 2014, what we're witnessing today, Israel has Operation Protective Edge. If you're a 6-year-old here in America, you'll probably be finishing up kindergarten. You're not watching your family massacred in front of you. You're not burying your friends. You're not sitting at home wondering when your turn is going to come. UNICEF released a number last week. 300,000 kids, at least in Gaza, require psychosocial therapy because they cannot bear what's going on. They have post-traumatic stress disorder. We see soldiers come home from Iraq, grown men and women, and they are scared. They have PTSD. Men and women. If you're a child, what does this feel like? That's why we're here today, because we cannot let the American government think that we're okay with this. We cannot say that we're okay with what's happening in Gaza. We cannot say we're okay with what our government's role is, because there's no way this would be as horrific as it is right now if the American government was not supplying Israel. We don't want our tax dollars going there. We have 6 amazing speakers that are going to speak today. However, before we have them come up, I'm going to kindly request that we have 15 seconds of silence, not only for those who have lost their lives unjustly in Gaza, but the fact that there's people dying in Syria, in Burma, in Iraq, in Brazil, in Mexico. Do you know that in the last week, 1,700 people in Syria have been massacred? Do you know in the last year, 170,000 people have been killed? These numbers are not okay. And so, for 15 seconds, please, a moment of silence. Thank you. Our first speaker will be Sheikh Islam. Sheikh Islam Mossad currently serves as an imam for North Austin Muslim Community Center. He previously served as imam for the Islamic Center of Round Rock. He was born and raised here in the U.S., and he graduated from the University of Texas at Austin with a degree in chemical engineering. His Islamic education came through sitting with people of knowledge and scholars from an early age until the present. He's a dynamic speaker who engages audiences and genuinely enjoys open and respectful discussions. So give it up for Sheikh Islam.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah, in the name of God, Ar-Rahman, the most compassionate, Ar-Rahim, the most merciful. Alhamdulillah, I praise Him, and the peace and blessings be upon His prophets and messengers, from Adam to Noah, to Abraham, to Moses, to Jesus, and to their seal Muhammad. Leading off from our last sister, wanted to begin remembering those who have been killed, that we believe that they are not dead, but they are alive. As Allah He says in the Quran, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أمواتا بل أحياء عند ربهم يرزقون فرحين بما آتاهم الله من فضله ويستبشرون بالذين لم يلحقوا بهم من خلفهم ألا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. صدق الله العظيم. The summary of these verses is that do not say that those who are killed in the way of God, those killed in the way of Allah, which is the way of truth, of justice, of beauty, do not say about them that they are dead. Do not say about the 2- and 3-day-old girl that she is dead. Do not say about the 4-year-old and the 5-year-old. And do not say about those killed playing soccer on the beach that they are dead. In fact, they are alive with their Lord. And they are in a state of bliss. And they're being provided for, not by their parents, but by the Lord of their parents. And they are giving the glad tidings to those who will come after them. To you, who will continue the struggle for truth and justice, unrelenting, not being discouraged, but going full forward for the cause of all oppressed peoples, wherever they may be, and especially on this day, our brothers and sisters in Palestine. 100 mosques have been destroyed. A number of hospitals have been targeted. Islamic universities, whole families in one night. We cannot imagine that you finally close your eyes at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., trying to sleep through the loud noise and the loud bang. And then all of a sudden, that bang, that boom, gets louder. And there are just screams. And Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. And your son is dead. Your daughter is dead. All of them wiped out. And you say to Allah we belong, and to Him is our return. And you live. And your one child who lives, you teach him to continue the fight. And he will teach his child to continue the fight until oppression is no more. And persecution is no more. The security services of this country, they are looking for terrorists. They are even creating terrorists to arrest. We have terrorists for them. It has a 3-letter acronym being aided with material support by a 5-sided polygon. It's called the IDF, being supplied by the Pentagon. They kill, they maim, they lie, they deceive their populations. They terrorize destruction of their brothers and sisters. Not the people of Egypt, not the people of Saudi Arabia, not the people of Jordan, but those evil, corrupt governments that have become psychopathic. As we conclude, we look back to an amazing visionary and revolutionary, Martin Luther King, whose legacy and his fight still continues today. Just a few words that we will quote from him. Because me personally, I am so proud to see our young brothers and sisters here.
Okay. I got it in advance last night. They were also selling them today. Yeah.
Thanks.
You are courageous. You are undeterred. You do not succumb to petty desires and vanity. But your focus on those who are being killed, those who are being oppressed. And that is what keeps you going. That is what keeps you united. So Martin Luther King saw the same thing in the youth of his day. He talked about the shattering impact on the young generation of spiritual emptiness of contemporary society. He said, now years later, it is not spiritual emptiness that is terrifying. It is not spiritual emptiness that is terrifying. It is spiritual evil. To condemn the bombing of a school with your lips and with your hands, to give them more bombs to bomb more schools, is spiritual evil. It is terrifying. But he gives the hope in the final paragraph of his speech. He says, and I end with his words, but we do not have much time. We do not have much time. The revolutionary spirit is already worldwide. The revolutionary spirit is already worldwide. If the anger of the peoples of the world at the injustice of things is to be channeled into a revolution of love and creativity, we must begin now to work. We must begin now to work urgently with all peoples to shape a new world. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
I don't know how many of y'all have heard this before, but a lot of times we hear that what's going on in Palestine is a Muslim cause. First of all, I would just like to point out that there's Muslims and Christians that live in Gaza. Second of all, when people are dying, it becomes a humanitarian cause. When people don't have food, water, drink, if we know what's right and wrong, we're going to stand for Gaza. And to prove this further, our next speaker is Minister Jim Rigby. Jim Rigby is a Presbyterian minister in Austin, Texas. In 2007, Mr. Rigby was named Texas Public Citizen of the Year by National Association of Social Works for his work on gender, economic, and racial issues. He has written for Huffington Post, Common Dreams, and other sites, but now his focus is on his blog, jimrigby.org, as a place for deeper discussion of the relationship between religion and politics. So, Jim Rigby.
I don't know how many of you saw the poll this week that said that 70% of the people in the United States are siding against the people of Gaza. We need to ask ourselves the question, how do we help people see? People in the United States have been taught a false story, a false narrative about themselves and about the rest of the world. And so they look across the sea and they see the fog of war. And they have no sense of their relationship to what is happening there. We need to teach them that the world looks very different to the weak and to the strong. The weak, if they are to protect themselves, have to pick up a stone or a pistol. But the strong can kill by writing a law. We need to teach people to see that. The soldiers of the strong are called soldiers. The soldiers of the weak are called militants. The dead of the strong are called victims of terrorism. The dead of the weak are called collateral damage. We have to help the people of this nation understand our relationship to what is happening in other places in the world. They need to realize that the weak can only get self-determination by rising up, by resisting oppression. But the strong can crush the dreams of the weak simply by building a wall between them and what they need to have lives of dignity. As an American, I was taught to see this world through the eyes of the strong. I was taught to see the world through the eyes of the colonizers. Our violence was order, and the resistance against our violence was seen as disorder. The history I was taught was written by the strong. But the faith tradition I was given as a child called me out of that vision. The faith that I was given as a child, as a follower of Jesus, says I have to leave my place in the oppression of every other brother and sister in the world and leave my privilege and sit beside those who are oppressed, marginalized, and violated. We cannot see through the fog of war unless we learn to stop seeing through the eyes of the strong and begin to see through the eyes of weak, which is the eyes of our humanity. We need to realize that war is seldom started because of religion. War is seldom started because of hatred. It is usually started because somebody wants something and takes it, and the hate comes later.
Where did people get water from? I'm not. Everybody.
We need to teach people to realize that it doesn't matter who did what when. What matters is who has power and who doesn't. What matters is who has human rights and who does not. What matters is who has access to their own land and who does not. If we follow the path we are on currently, it will mean the demise and the misery of all of us. I've been told that pirates used to play a game with their prisoners. They would chain them to a mast, one arm to the mast, and the other arm they would give a whip, and they would tell them to whip the person in front of them. And each person would start off barely hitting the person in front of them, but before long, because they always felt that the other person hurt them worse, the violence increased until inevitably the entire circle would be reduced to blood. We cannot go any further down that path. We have to learn to stop seeing through the eyes of the colonizers and through the people of the earth. And to realize there's a connection deeper than our religion, that our religion is an expression of that depth. It's deeper than our nation. Our nation is an expression of that depth. We need to understand what Albert Einstein said when he said, forget everything else. Remember your humanity. Forget everything else. As a Christian, may I say to my Muslim Jewish brothers and sisters here, and every other faith and lack thereof, that the true promised land predicted by all people, if understood correctly, is one world shared by us all. And the true promised people from among every religion are those who make themselves ambassadors for a world with human rights and dignity for all. Thank you.
Before we go on, KXAN wasn't able to make it due to an emergency, and so we were requesting that if you guys have any pictures you'd like to send them to desk@kxan.com. Just if y'all have any great pictures. Desk, DESK@KXAN. Our next speaker is going to be Rabbi Lynn Gottlieb. In 1981, Rabbi Lynn Gottlieb became the first woman ordained as a rabbi in the Jewish Renewal Movement. In 2007, she was selected as one of the other top 50 rabbis, and in 2008, she led a Fellowship of Reconciliation delegation to Iran, thus becoming the first female rabbi to visit Iran in a public delegation since the 1979 Iranian Revolution. She's also the author of She Who Dwells Within, a feminist vision of a renewed Judaism. Give it up for Rabbi Lynn.
Assalamu alaikum. I am standing here today with such a heavy heart. Oh my goodness. Can we bear this anymore? It's so awful, so terrible. And I want to tell you that the first Arabic word that I ever learned from Atala Mansour in 1966, when I was a student, a high school student in Israel, and I went to seek out the voice of Palestinians because I grew up in the civil rights movement. And my rabbis, the rabbis of my youth, they were getting arrested. They were going to jail because they could not stand segregation in the United States, an evil institution, which is still so much the reason why we cannot see what is happening in Gaza. Because we are still such a racist society, locking people up, putting them in jail, denying them resources. So how can we see what's happening in Gaza without struggling for justice here at home? But the first word I learned from Atala Mansour was the word Nakba. Nakba. And Nakba, which means disaster, is not over. Nakba is an ongoing mass destruction of Palestinian life and Palestinian culture. And Palestinians are not weak, they are so strong, as you are all strong. Who can survive these centuries, this century of Nakba, if there wasn't the characteristic of sumud, of remaining steadfast to the values of hospitality, the values of family, the values of faith? Nakba is still happening. Today in Austin, I know that the official Jewish community that claims to represent my voice, which it does not. It does not represent us. It does not speak for me. And it does not speak for the tens of thousands of Jewish people all over the world who look at what's happening. And we are not just standing here crying about it. We are active. We are organized. We are advocates. We are working to end the occupation. We can't just cry about it. We have to advocate every way we know how. But the Jewish community here, they told their constituents not to come today because they didn't want to bring too much attention. Well, this is exactly the wrong message. You should be standing here today with the people of Gaza. And by standing with the people of Gaza, you are standing with the Jewish people. Because how can we, the Jewish people who know the Holocaust, how can we witness what is happening and not be present to say, not in our name? I learned from the rabbis of my youth that never again means never again for anyone. Never again does not mean never again just for the Jewish people. It means never again wherever human rights are being violated. And human rights are not just being violated. People are dying. Neighborhoods are being destroyed. There are so many mourners. People like to throw out statistics. I will give you a statistic. Over 90% of the children of Gaza have seen a dead person. 93%. Can you imagine that almost every child in Gaza has witnessed the death of someone they know, a neighbor, a friend, or someone in their family? This is wrong. And we, American citizens, we are supplying the weapons. We are supplying the weapons. This latest ceasefire, which was supposed to be a ceasefire, was not a ceasefire. It was time to rearm Israel with more weapons and bullets. This is not a ceasefire.
Shame on them! 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 Shame on them!
And shame on us if we do not leave here. Shame on us if we do not leave here with our signs and our feelings, and we do not organize. We do not organize for the long run, with media campaigns, with advocacy in the Senate and in the terrible Senate and in the House and our neighbors. If we do not form coalition after coalition, if we do not do the social movement